Welcome, one and all, to the iRacing Esports Network this Wednesday, the 16th of January 2019. It's the start of a new year. Well, the new year's been in swing for 2 whole weeks now, and we are ready to get going with another season of grand touring racing from down under and our neighbours in Kiwi land. This is the Geodesic Racing Sprint Series Australasia, round 1 from the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. It's a big change for this series. We've switched from GT3 to GTE cars, and we've got a bunch of new rules in terms of how penalties are applied. It's going to be an interesting one for sure, and it all starts tonight. My name is Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box, Brock, Cat-Eye, and David Haynes. Once again, the dream team all together. Brock, welcome. It's time for GT racing once again.
Hey everybody, it is great to be back for some GT racing, and like Reece said, the GTE, personally one of my favourite race cars and race car categories is GTEs. The cars sound great, they look great, and they go fast. So tonight's going to be really interesting to see who ends up on top. Obviously a smaller range of cars to choose from, but a more competitive range, if you will, compared to the GT3 field in iRacing. So be interesting to see what cars end up on top and the strengths of each of these cars that come out tonight. And again, very strong field. Some of our regulars from last season, the likes of John Peasnick, Anthony Winkleman, Ross Rizzo, Martin Silvassi and more have turned up tonight. And we actually have quite a few new faces throughout the field as well. So I'm pumped. I'm really happy to be back here on the iRacing Esports Network commentating this series. So let's see how we go for this first 45-minute race.
For sure. David, you're back in the saddle with us once again. A lot to think about coming into this season as the practice session comes to an end. These GTE cars, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the drivers handle these after so many seasons in GT3.
Yep, exactly. We've got a great mix out there of the 3 manufacturers, and this is an interesting track to come to for the first round here at Brands Hatch. Rather tight, rather difficult place to overtake. So let's have a look at the group.
Yes, indeed. John Peasnick on pole with Forzan El Nabi in second. Anthony Winkleman and Damien McPhee in the second row. Luis Paulo Gallon and Zach Hanlon in 5th and 6th. Ross Rizzo in 7th. So all your contenders from last season are there. Martin Silvassi for Trick Sim Sports completes the top 8 there. As we go into the next bit of the grid, Jackson Harlow, new signing for TTL Esports, and Blake Neck for Geodesic Racing, rounding out the top 10, Brock.
And in 11th tonight, we have Ryan Jerrick, Mitchell McLeod in 12th, Dominic Ferraris in 13th, David Mulhall 14th, James McKee 15th, Reese Keane 16th, Troy Maguire 17th, 18th is Scott Solosky, Carlos Villa in 19th, and rounding out the top 20 tonight is Cameron Stubber, David.
Oh yeah, sorry. 21st is Daniel Cheney. 22nd, Adam Briggs. 23rd is Mark Rayner. 24th is Aaron Bolkwill. 25th is Brett Cananzi. 26th, Benjamin Johnson. 27th is Richard Hunter. 28th spot on the grid belongs to Murray Walpole. 29th is Mauricio Lastres. And over to you now, Reese.
Yes, Pat Gallo rounding out the top 30 there with Sean Linsell, Michael Hammond, Paul Mansell, James Hanna, and Justin Strickland rounding out the 35-car field here. As the cars are now going around their formation lap here at Brands Hatch, we can take a closer look at some of the elements that will be at play in this one. We've got 1% humidity, and we've got some fairly low temperatures in terms of air and track. So looks like there's going to be a lot of grip available for these guys, but the cars are going to be on a bit of a knife edge.
Yeah, that's it. So these guys here, obviously, like you said earlier, the GT3 series that this was for 3 seasons has now turned into GTE to follow in iRacing's footsteps with their World Championships. So GTE is still a GT car, but quite a different one in its makeup. So the element that quite a lot more downforce and less assists in this car. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. And again, Brands Hatch, like you said, on a knife edge, Brands Hatch is a track that does not give you much space to move. A lot of fast flowing corners and has been a Formula 1 track before. So not a lot of space to move for these guys. And these GTE cars are fairly wide as well. So be interesting to see how these guys handle these first few laps and how the passing goes as well. And we've just heard from our director that Martin Silvestri is actually starting from the pits. So someone who had been a contender is going to be starting right from the rear of the field and have a disadvantage right from the get-go.
Yeah, that's very interesting to see. I'm not quite sure what the go is there, but looking up the front, I'm noticing that the Porsche 911 RSR is the car of choice for the top 4 here. We have to go back a fair way to see the first of the Ferraris, so it will be interesting to see which car choices come out on top here. But they're coming into the final turn now on the formation lap, a full field of GTE cars. Beautiful sight to be sure. John Piesnik already away. Have a look on the outside there. Yeah, 3 wide already on the last lap here. That was Damien McPhee going very, very early and getting that pass done, but it looks like he's managed to hold off as Forzan El Nabi as they come into...
Oh, sorry, Reese, we've got contact. The number 11 car's been turned around at turn 2 there, McPhee, and he's turned around Rizzo into the field there. So already carnage here tonight, and we've got another car in the background spun around there.
Oh no, absolute carnage here coming out of the Druids hairpin. You know, we always figured something like this was going to happen, but not quite to this effect. It's a very tight opening to the lap there at Brands Hatch. No safety car there. We will get a replay when the opportune time comes, but John Piesnik, Forzan El Nabi, and Anthony Winkelman are your top 3 as things stand. Zach Hanlon making his way up to 4th, but how about that for the likes of Rizzo and McPhee? We go to our replay here, Brock. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack from that incident there, and we'll see if we can try and figure out a bit of it for you. So it looks like there's a bit of contact between the Trick Sim Sportsmobile and McPhee there. Then he makes contact with Ross Rizzo, which sends him around, and other cars try to take avoiding action there, and it ends up in more carnage in the background. You see a car nearly get flipped over. So that was a number 55 car there, unfortunately for him. It looked like he might have kept going there, but lots of damage for Richard Hunter.
Yes, indeed. As we go back live now, John Piesnik continuing to lead from here. Anthony Winkelman in 3rd, and you could see from the replay, the drama started when he tagged Damien McPhee. So very tight there at Druids, turn 2. David, oh goodness me, Benjamin Johnson with a bit of a slide at Druids, and it's continuing to catch drivers out, David.
Yeah, exactly. The first corner is really difficult here. Difficult to sight the apex, and then the track drops away a lot after the apex. So if someone gets a bad run through there, like some drivers did on the first lap, they ended up 3 wide coming into Druids, which is the hardest braking zone on the circuit and the tightest corner. So 3 wide into there will always end somewhat predictably. And one thing to touch on right here, we've changed from GT3 to GTE machines, but it hasn't taken away the dominance of Trick Sim Sports right up the top of this field.
Certainly not. We are looking further back in the field at the moment. Jackson Harlow currently embroiled in a battle. Dominic Ferraris behind these two. Very close battle. Mitch McLeod, we ride on board with, looking back here at the Porsche. Getting pretty close at the moment, but you are correct. Trick Sim Sports continuing to show their absolute mastery of endurance racing in the AusNZ sim racing community. These guys having a hell of a battle, though.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Mitchell McLeod is just up ahead of Suzlin Harlow here, and in the background you've got Dominic Ferraris not far away in that Ferrari there. So Harlow's looking very racy, but just hasn't been able to find a spot to actually make it past at the moment. But he's got a nice long straight here to draft on, and he's right up behind that Ferrari as well. So we'll see how it goes here. He's already pulling out to the right-hand side to try and get that move done side by side now. Looks like he'll get that well and truly done there. We'll see if he can make it out the other side of the corner, and he's got that move done for the time being. So Harlow back to where he started, fell back a bit, has a little bit of damage, I think. So now he's looking to be on that charge to get back up in front of the field.
Yes, indeed. We've got 41 minutes left in this event here. It's a 45-minute race. The drivers will have to make a pit stop. So it's business as usual in terms of race formats compared to last season. But as we continue to say, as we ride on board with Zach Hanlon, we're looking back at Luis Paulo Gallon there in the LP Racing Ford GT. But the drivers have to do a lot of testing, work out the fuel burns and the tyre wear of these cars, and try and rejig their strategies from that viewpoint, because they've had a lot of time to figure out what the GT3 cars are like in terms of how they tackle these event formats. But GTE, once again, an entirely new ballgame.
And that's where this is going to get interesting. And sorry, we've just had Luis Polo Gallen throw it down the inside of Hanlon. That was a very late move, and it's actually shot Hanlon wide. And he's managed to get it just back on the track, but now behind him, we've got more drivers trying to get in on this action here. Damien McPhee going side by side and has now gotten that move done on Hanlon. So unfortunate for Hanlon, they're losing 2 spots, and now Luis Polo Gallen is through and continuing to chase down the rest of the pack. So Hanlon was struggling just a little bit in those last couple of laps, and Gallen was all over him, just decided to make that move stick right there and there, and Hanlon is dropping off even further into the clutches of Blake Neck behind.
Yeah, it feels to me like Hanlon tried to hold on for that position for a bit too long, because you could see that Gallon was tracking out at the point that they made that pass, and Hanlon ended up getting forced off the track. That's what let McPhee through. So I'm not quite sure how Zach Hanlon is going to recover from this, because he's ending up facing off against another Ford, a Porsche, and yet another Ford behind him. So Hanlon in the wars, bit of a lock-up into Druids.
And the interesting thing is how these cars come up to, I guess how you could say, come up to temperature, and also the drivers as well. Obviously, we've had a bit of an off-season with the Christmas period, and now we're getting back into the thick of things with these racing series. So some drivers might be a little bit out of practice, and now's the time to get back in. As I'm just watching Hanlon, he had a bit of a moment coming through the same corner that pass got done on him by Gallon. So that car isn't looking very comfortable underneath him, and he is losing time out to Damien McPhee. So I don't know, it's just that Altus last season in the GT3s didn't quite have the formula right, and just wasn't quite working for them. And maybe their early car won't be good, but later on in the race it'll come back to them.
Yeah, that's a good point you make. We'll have to keep an eye out for the Altus machines, because they've been competing in other series in GTE, the likes of Neo Endurance and all that, and they've managed to get themselves in with some very good positions, some very good results. So see what happens for them here.
In the last round of Neo Endurance on the weekend, they did pick up the win in the GT category, did Altus Esports, but using the Porsche instead of the Ford.
Yes, indeed. We're just going quickly to a replay. Just going to see what happened in the background. I'm not quite sure what happened here. Troy Maguire for CMR. Goodness me, that was a car going off just up ahead of him, and Maguire around. That's a bit dramatic through Sterling's.
Just a little a spin there. Luckily no one else caught up in that, but yeah, not really helping his progress. He's already got a little bit of damage on that rear wing and on the rear of the car, so that's really not going to help him throughout the rest of this race. So unfortunate to see, but luckily no other cars caught up in it, so it's all green for the time being.
Looking up further up the field, I'm noticing second and third have actually been quite close, and just as I say, Forzan El Nabi off the track. He managed to recover, but it's absolutely ruined his run, and it's leaving him open to an attack from his teammate.
This is going to be really interesting. Winkleman actually dropped off the back of El Nabi a couple of laps ago, and I don't know whether he was trying to just fresh and get going again, but now he's right on the back of El Nabi, and you can see the pressure is starting to get to El Nabi, just running a little bit wide, and that meant that he went off onto the grass. So now, again, a little bit wide, taking a wider line through turn one there, but we're interested to see how Winkleman tackles this, because he doesn't want to take out his teammate. You'd never want to do that. That is a cardinal sin in sim racing and motorsport, in any form of sport really. Do not take out your teammate. So he's got to be careful here, and he has a little bit of damage on the front splitter of that Porsche, so that will be affecting probably handling, turn in, and also his straight line speed just a bit.
Yeah, you can see that El Nabi's struggling slightly here, just going offline a bit. Winkleman going for the move as we just briefly took another look back in the field, but these Trick Sim Sports 911s really going at it at the moment. You can see El Nabi's looking just a bit more scrappy than Winkleman is. So I'm not quite sure what the Trick Boys want to do at this point.
Right now, if they can not lose too much time to the likes of Luis Paulo Gallen, it may be worth just sticking line astern and not bothering battling. But in saying that, Luis Paulo is becoming a bigger and bigger rocket ship in their mirrors, so they may have to do the team thing. If Winkelmann is showing more speed, El Navi may have to let him by. So we'll keep an eye on this in the coming laps, because I don't think we're going to see any spectacular or crazy moves come out of the blue. But I think that we know Trick Sim Sports are the king of strategy. We've got a crash in the back of the field here. Who is that there? Mark Rayner has had a massive incident. That car is absolutely beat up at the moment. We're going to get a CPR parts instant replay on that one there and see exactly what's happened to him.
Yeah, so Rayner just coming up through this section of the circuit. Oh, he just caught the grass, man. That's very easy to do, and quite a few cars involved. Oh, Mauricio Lastres right there. That was the car that ended up making contact with him. We're going to take another look here, Brock, from Lastres' point of view.
Yeah, that's not going to be a hard one for him to avoid. He thought he was in the clear, and then Rayner got tagged, and Lastres had nowhere to go. So unfortunate for Lastres, and such an easy mistake to make on Mark Rayner's part, just to clip the grass and get on the accelerator and spin yourself. So yeah, that one is a mistake I'm sure every sim racer has made while doing practice laps around this circuit.
Yes, indeed. Lumball with Blake Neck looking at Jackson Harlow, who's really monstering the back of the Geodesic Racing Ford there. This is quite the spicy battle. So Harlow has left the likes of Ferraris, Silovsky and McLeod behind and is really pressuring Neck. And oh my goodness, that's David Mulhall off the track, just out of that section coming to Sterling's, and Cameron Stubber off the circuit as well. What's going on in that section? It seems like everyone's finding a new way to exit the circuit there.
Well, it's keeping us on our toes, isn't it? So we're going to have Cameron Stubber and David Mulhall on screen, and Cameron Stubber goes off and whacks the wall, and Mulhall has his own separate incident there as well. So that looks like two for the price of one, if you will, on the same corner as we saw that incident earlier with Rayner and Lastres. So, like you said, people are just finding new and creative ways to actually have incidents there.
Yeah, well, David, it's a very easy part of the circuit to make a mistake, because this top part of the circuit, we're looking Harlow going through there now. It's a very high load, high pressure section of track, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a blind apex, and as we see on board, fantastic shot here from Jackson Suzlin Harlow, that there's no runoff, there's no curbing on the exit. You're on the racetrack, and then immediately there's grass, and that grass will spin you around without doubt if you get your outside tyres on it. So I think the most difficult part about it is both that it's unsighted and that tracking out half a metre too far will put you in a lot of jeopardy.
Certainly will. We've had quite a few drivers find that out so far tonight. But, oh no, we got it on for second and third. El Navi, fallen back to third, actually ran off the track on the exit of Druids. So that's decided that fight between the Trick Sim Sports teammates. El Navi seems a bit uncharacteristic of him at this stage to see mistakes like that.
Yeah, El Navi, we mentioned this in the GT3 era of this series, if you will. He's a hard charger and a hard racer and rarely makes big mistakes. So it's a bit something about that setup mustn't agree with his driving style, because he's just not quite got as good a handle as the likes of Winkelmann on that car. And Winkelmann, even with that damage on the front of his car, is looking a lot more stable through these corners, particularly through some of the fast stuff. El Navi's just bouncing around a bit more. And something's happened to Zach Hanlon as well, we're just hearing now. So he's fallen back quite a ways through the field. Getting an instant replay of that now to try and figure out exactly what's going on there. So we've got him on screen now. All seems fine here, coming to the green zone, and big skid through there. So has actually done a good job to catch that without causing an incident or getting in the way of anyone else, but unfortunately has curbed his progress in this race massively.
Yeah,
and through that, Jackson Suzlin Harlow has come through on Blake Neck as well, which I think is what Reese was about to say.
Yes. Got a telepathic link there, David. Have a look at here. Pat Gallo back in the field. Martin Silvassi, remember, Silvassi qualified 8th, but he started from the pits. He's making his way back through this field. Could be going for a move here into turn 1. It's a difficult place to pass, but it can be done, because once you're on the outside through Paddock Hill, there's really nothing you can do.
Yeah, that's it. It's the case of this track. There are a few cambered corners, and once, exactly like you said, once you're on the outside, it's all over Red Rover. So that's the good thing about Brands Hatch. It's quite hilly, got a lot of undulations, very interesting corners that make it quite a unique track on any racing calendar that it appears on. So yeah, really cool to see some of these different overtaking manoeuvres, and great to see some great battling in the back of the field here.
Yes, indeed. Ryan Jerrick, we're currently following, and Silvassi continuing to pressure at the back of, I believe that's Paul Mansell in that Ferrari. And, oh no, Forzen El Nabi off the track once again.
And in the wall!
That is very bad there. Not what we want to see from Mr. El Nabi. Instant replay once again. See what on earth happened. I can tell, Brock, you've just seen it. What happened?
He's gone out on the grass out of the last turn there, and as the viewers are seeing now, he's tried to catch it and swung straight into the concrete there. So he's dropping down and down and down, and the caution is out. Caution is out, ladies and gentlemen. So Forzen El Nabi is still stuck there, now reversing, having gone down to 29th position in this field, and maybe even further. So that is not good for him and the progress that he was making with that in that Trick Sim Sports Porsche RSR. So, wow, that has just thrown the race on its head, and we are only 15 minutes in. Yeah,
wow, that's certainly something that John Piesnik will not be happy to see, because he had an absolutely dominant lead over Anthony Winkelmann at the time. I'm sure he would have been happy if the race had just kept going. He'd have been able to eke out that gap a bit more, but this is where the rhythm gets thrown off for a lot of these drivers. This is where you have to basically reset. It's also an opportunity for drivers to get their pit stop done as well.
That's it. So it'll be interesting to see who does their pit stops and who doesn't. So I think that right now the field is neutralised. You might as well come in unless you're really looking to get some gain out of getting further up the field. The likes of Martin Silvassi might leave it till later, but the odds of us having a safety car aren't amazing. So, we usually don't see them in this race. It usually stays pretty clean, and it's just El Nabi being stuck there on the track that led to this one. So I'll be interested to see who does the length of the pit stops, and whether Piesnik can jump out to that, well, like you said, that dominant lead that he had, that we've seen him do so many times before.
Yes, indeed, but we gotta remember one of Piesnik's issues last season was the fact that once he had that rhythm thrown off, he had a lot of trouble recovering and getting back into it. We've noted that Piesnik's campaign was marred by quite a few incidents where he just made mistakes on his own. So we'll see if that's been mitigated with the switch to GTE, the switch to a new car, switch to possibly a car that's less difficult to drive compared to the other cars than Piesnik's old McLaren and Ford GT was. Interesting elements here, and a lot that we'll see play out over the season. It's a long season we've got here.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We've got a lot of races, and it's hard to remember in the excitement of everything that's going on out on track that we are only at race one of quite a long season, and these guys, they have to come in week after week and be competitive and race hard. And like you said, with John Piesnik last season, his weakness was getting back into that rhythm. That's where we saw the likes of Luis Paulo Gallen and Ross Rizzo come back and get him. And there we go. Sorry, they're letting the lap cars past the safety car at the moment. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see how he goes in this GTE car, particularly because, as I mentioned earlier, these cars are fairly evenly matched. He's not either Ford GT or McLaren, a difficult car as compared to others that we've got. Quite a few cars coming into the pit lane now, so Piesnik, Winkelmann, Gallon, looks like the whole field is coming in, so they're just going to get this pit cycle out of the way, and we'll see who comes out on top here, because if Winkelmann could jump Piesnik, who knows what that could do for his race. So we'll have to keep a close eye on these pit stops at the moment, and like you said, just about everybody is coming to the pit lane at the moment.
Piesnik away, Winkelmann away, so looks to me like things have been fairly usual in that, but Luis Paulo Gallon leapfrogging them, and oh my goodness, Damien McPhee just right off to the side and back into the garage. What happened to him? He's gone. He's disconnected from the server.
Oh, he's hit the the guardrail on the right-hand side of pit lane there.
Oh, no.
As he's coming out, because he's tried to avoid hitting another car, and he's whacked it, and it's probably ruined his car.
Oh, of course, yes. Of course, it didn't help that that he had quite the queue near him.
His steering was about 45 degrees left-hand down after that hit, so his car was ruined.
That's a shame. Real shame there. So, 2 cars did not pit. That's Sean Linsell and James Hanna up the front of the field here. But they've got everyone else right behind them. Luis Paulo Gallon promoting himself to effective 3rd. Effective 4th is Jackson Harlow. Blake Neck up to 5th. And Ferraris and Solovsky up there as well. Zach Hanlon trying to recover as well.
Yeah, Solosky actually made a few positions up in that pit cycle. He got past the likes of Hanlon and Rizzo and McLeod. So he was actually further back around the 14th or 15th area. So his pit stop actually went quite a bit better. In fact, he took the same amount of fuel as some of our leaders, while a couple of guys behind him actually took a little bit more fuel than that. So interesting strategy play by him there. And by the looks of it, it may get him out of that mid-pack and closer to the front where it's a little less crazy.
Indeed. We'll have to see how he copes with that. The safety car will be in next time by. The lights will shut off on the top of that roof. So, the roof of the roof. Yes, that is very correct, Jay Kennedy, in our ears. I wish I'd come up with that myself. I realised it just after it had come out of my mouth. But this is the part where the drivers begin to gear up for this restart. This is where the pressure really starts building. You got James Hanna and Sean Linsell up in front of our effective leaders, both of them carrying damage as well. So it's not going to be the easiest time for the likes of Peasnick, Winkleman and Gallon.
And these two, James and Sean, have both. They're up 33 and 29 positions respectively from their starting positions. So these guys qualified a bit further down the back and obviously have decided to stay out the front there, but their pace has been about 2 seconds a lap slower than the likes of Peasnick and Winkleman that are behind them. So I imagine that Peasnick in particular will want to clear them and hope that they create a gap back to the guys behind him so he can get back into that groove. And I'm sure all the drivers behind will be hoping that they hold Peasnick up and give them the opportunity to have a go at this win tonight.
Yeah, certainly. It's going to be awkward, especially up near the top. This part of the circuit they're coming up to now. Very difficult to put a move on anywhere around this place, but especially hard up the top of the circuit here.
That's it. And the thing for John Peasnick will be trying to get past them ASAP. And I don't think he'll try to do anything silly, but he will make sure that they know he's coming through. So if anything, he'll want to get it done in that first or second sector of the lap before you get into, like you said, around the back end of the circuit, the tight-knit, close racing that really doesn't offer up, through this section here we're going through now, it doesn't offer up many overtaking opportunities, and you're sort of just stuck unless you really go for it and really I guess have the guts and the bravery to throw it down the inside. But we're coming back around to the end of this last safety car lap as the official pace car will peel in here, Reese.
Yep, certainly will, and James Hanna will be the one to lead the field away. Taking the green flag, pace car is in, and eyes are on the 22 of James Hanna. And oh my goodness, what is Gallon doing there? My goodness, this restart is an absolute shambles. What on earth has gone on there?
The green flag got called and the two gents at the front didn't go for it. I believe I heard the green flag from the spotter and they didn't go. So yeah, now we've got Susan Harlow is going for a move there. This is absolutely insane. The whole field has been shaken up by this. Wow, this is absolutely crazy at the moment. As we watch them all come through, we've got 3 wide in the background here. Oh my goodness gracious me, there's so much to watch here. If we look at Scott Solosky and Dominic Ferraris, they're battling it out here. Still 2 by 2 behind them.
Oh, got a spinner! Gallon spun! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get involved in this! Will the track be blocked? Oh goodness, Gallon trying to recover, smashes straight into another car, and the
Another
safety
yellow.
car is out again. What a shambles that was. Utter
Wow.
shambles.
Wow. I don't know what happened on that restart, Reese and David, but someone wasn't watching, someone wasn't listening to their spotter, but I'm just going to go back and have a look at that because it looks like the green flag has been waved and the guys at the front there didn't actually go. So they're holding the field. The other guys behind have gone. Winkleman went, Gallon went, and Susan Harlow went as well, just as the green flag got called. So I don't know what was going on there, but whatever happened has caused this colossal pile-up that has led to quite a few cars in this field being damaged, and even before that, it was just an absolute shambles of racing as guys tried to sort themselves out.
Yes,
That was
indeed.
spun by himself. We just saw that on the replay. I don't think there was any contact. I think
No,
he's
there
had
wasn't.
the whole pack behind him, and he's just come in too hot. And they say yellows breed yellows, you know, safety cars breed safety cars, and we've seen this. We didn't get half a lap of green flag racing before, unfortunately, we're going to have another safety car period.
I especially feel for the likes of Justin Strickland. He was the car that Gallon went right into as he did a spin to recover. Justin, just through absolutely no fault of his own, with big damage on that car, but also all the drivers involved in that pile-up that was started by Gallon spinning. That was just incredible to witness, and not in a good way.
No, I guess that's one of those events you'd call, like you said, you call awesome, but definitely not in a positive way. That was probably, honestly, that was probably one of the biggest crashes we have seen in Sprint Series Australasia. That was just mega, and I've got a feel for Dominic Ferraris as well. He tried to take to the grass to get around Gallon, and to Gallon's credit, he got off the track, but an unsuspecting Dominic Ferraris smacked straight into him, trying to do the right thing and not hit him on the track. So, yeah, it all just went absolutely nutty once we got there, and yeah, cars flipping. Oh man, it's I'm amazed that not more of the field was ruined in that crash.
Yeah, and in amongst all of that, we've had another retirement from Forzan El Nabi. So that's pretty significant. El Nabi's season not getting off to the start that he would have wanted at all, from his problems earlier on to ending up having to retire from this one. Gallon's still in the pits as well, so wondering if he will retire as well. Troy Maguire, you can tell he's already not had the best of events, but as he sits there stationary, got a feel for them. Linsell, one of the guys that was up the front, is going into the pits finally, and Hannah continuing to stay out. So I'm not quite sure what the deal is with Hannah. I mean, his compatriot up the front, Linsell, decided to go in there, but Hannah holding.
And Hannah was the one that was at the front of the field that balked them all on the last restart. So I just hope that this restart, when that green flag waves, we're going racing, because that's what spread that field out so much and ended up in such a weird and messy restart, which we usually don't see in SSA. Usually it's a pretty clean and well raced restart.
Yes, indeed. Of course, there's always going to be teething issues, it being the first round of a new season, but yeah, it was quite interesting to witness. I mean, these guys obviously have done plenty of restarts before, so it just boggles my mind how an incident like that managed to happen with guys that have had the experience that these guys have had.
Yeah, that's it. I'm still not sure why the likes of why Hannah hasn't pitted in yet. I don't know what benefit there is for him being out the front. He's about a second, just over a second slower than most of our lead pack here. So I don't know if he'll actually be able to hold off most of these guys, and probably will slip back a bit. And he's got a pit anyway. The field is compressed at the moment, and when he's got a pit for fuel, he's just going to lose more positions. So I'm not sure of the strategy benefit at the moment of staying out in front when he hasn't got the speed benefit either.
Yeah, it perplexes me as well. Not sure what the logic of Hannah's strategy is, but we'll see. See if he dives in just before the safety car period ends. Apparently, we are hearing from race administrator for this round, Simon Mazzomo, Winkleman just got out of it before the line, so I don't think there's going to be any penalty for him going early.
It looked like Gallon went early and a couple of other guys went in reaction to Gallon, and then the green flag went and our two leaders didn't go, and there was a bit of confusion in the field that should we go or shouldn't we go. Peacenik stuck behind the leaders to make sure that obviously no black flags were levelled against him. That would be a horrible start to his championship. But yeah, just honestly a little bit confused with that whole restart situation.
Yes, indeed. Well, it will be one to review for later. We still have quite a bit of time in this race left to go. Actually, I tell a lie, not much time at all. We've got just over 15 minutes left. These caution periods have really drawn out the pace, so these guys are not covering anywhere near as much distance as they probably thought they would.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's that they're cruising around here at the moment. It's more like a Sunday drive than a proper 45-minute GTE race. So not quite what we were expecting for our first round. But before the caution came out, we're actually seeing some really awesome racing going on and some great competition, which is what we come here to see with SSA. And these guys really know what they're doing. These GTEs, other than those couple of incidents we've had, have actually shown that they're great for racing, and the differences between the cars have been balanced really nicely through iRacing's balanced performance.
They certainly have. I mean, you've got the Porsche 911 RSR, the Ford GT, and the Ferrari 488. Three fantastic race cars in their own right, but I am a fan of the way iRacing has implemented these cars and managed to balance their performance. It's certainly quite spectacular, the racing that these cars provide, and just watching them go around a track on their own, you know. They've got their own little elements. The Ford's got that low revving V6 that is efficient and turbocharged, and it's got fantastic aerodynamic performance. You got the Ferrari with its turbocharged V8, and of course the Porsche with its naturally aspirated flat six. These cars, really awesome matchup and a great way to bring this series back. We're coming to the end of this caution period now. Safety car in. We will see when James Hanna will go. A lot more orderly this time around as the green flag flies, and we've already got Zach Hanlon pulling out to try and put an outside move here. So here we go. Coming into turn one, Hanna maintaining the lead here from John Peasnick, but we'll see how long it takes for these guys to draw up to the back. Hanlon still trying to put moves at the moment. That's looking quite interesting there, just in the background of the shot.
We've got a car in the fence, sorry, Reese. I'm just trying to find out who that is. It is David Mulhall at turn one. He's gone around the outside there of one of the Redback racing cars, and they've made a little bit of contact, and it's just spun him right around, and then he's copped a massive hit there from another driver who I'm just trying to find out.
Oh, it's on for the effective lead. My goodness, James Hanna has got a front row seat if he looks in his rearview mirror to this action. Anthony, that's Harlow. That's Jackson Harlow pressuring John Peasnick for the effective lead of the race. Trying to go for the outside move there. Inside, sorry. Not going to happen with the likes of Peasnick, but Hanna's just holding these guys up right now, and Peasnick is going to go through here at the last turn. Hanna just braking early. Oh, only leaving just a little bit of room there on the inside for Harlow, but he has let the top three through nice and cleanly as Hanna. Bravo for that. So we can continue racing on here. My goodness, this is close up the front.
Rizzo has worked his way up to 7th as well after a couple of issues earlier on in this race and being involved in an incident. So that is a great effort from him. But we'll keep focusing on this lead battle here between Peasnick, Susan Harlow and Winkleman. So Peasnick has got a little bit of a gap here, but Susan Harlow is definitely not out of trouble with Winkleman right behind. So this is going to be a real good battle as we've only got 11.5 minutes left in this race. And it looks like we're just going to have an all-out sprint to the end to try and take these top 3 positions.
Well, it's not called Sprint Series Australasia for nothing, eh? This is fantastic, this battle here up at the top. Harlow has fallen back from Peasnick a little bit. I think John has found his rhythm that we were talking about under the previous caution period. But now Winkleman and Harlow will be the ones battling hard here. But just behind Zach Hanlon, looks like it's really getting frisky. Hannah now coping with the likes of Blake Neck, Rizzo, Silovsky, etc.
Yeah, so James Hanna is a little bit of a cork of the bottle, if you will. These guys there, they've got a lot of speed and they're trying to keep pushing through here and just trying to find their way by. So Blake Neck is trying to get around, but not having a lot of luck at the moment, not even through turn one here. So he's going to have to stay in behind there, and in the meantime, Zach Hanlon is pushing hard ahead there. Winkleman is still not quite past Harlow there. Harlow's managed to get into this nice rhythm just up in front of this big battle pack with Hannah at the front there. And actually, if we look behind Solosky there, there's even more battling going on. There is a massive train of cars. And Silvassi's come back to 9th place, wow. From a pit lane start. That is a massive effort from the Trick Sim Sports driver, and a shout out to him for making it that far. Well done.
Brett Cananzi off the track there. That's a bit of a shame at Graham Hill Bend. Just going to go to a quick replay of what happened to Cananzi. Cananzi, he's had quite a few good runs, but that, I think, was through very little fault of his own. It was Pat Gallo, and oh my goodness, that was absolutely sandwich central for Brett Cananzi. Poor Brett, he couldn't do anything there.
No, that's it. Like you said, Sandwich City there, Sandwich Central, he had nowhere to go. And just was a case of one guy trying to stay on the track and the other guy trying to follow the racing line. And, well, Cananzi can't magically speed up to get past them. So, unfortunately, crunch time. And that's spun him right the way around.
Certainly has. We're right on board with Ross Rizzo at the moment coming into Druids. And he's getting a good look at the rear ends of Blake Neck and James Hanna just up ahead. This is a good point that our director has raised. The drivers do almost have to make a pit stop as we look at Paul Mansell having an issue. They will likely have to make a pit stop, but a pit stop isn't mandatory. Hannah may want to make this on fuel. Daniel Cheney with problems. What's happened to him?
So we'll have a look at an instant replay. We'll have that on screen for you now, and it looks like he's been drilled there. So Paul Mansell got drilled, and then Cheney was an innocent victim in all of that, and ended up getting hit himself. So Mansell has a big skid through turn one, and then from behind, someone comes along and hits Mansell, and that just makes Cheney an innocent victim, and luckily kept going. So.
There's a few silly moves going on in that section of the track. It's, I know it's a tight and slow section of what is a very fast circuit, but some of the stuff that's been happening through there leaves me scratching my head, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of, I guess, some of the racing rust being worn off, so that these guys getting back used to it. And Brands Hatch is a complex track to start a series on and really get your head back in gear. And we've just had the number 72 of Adam Briggs hit Carlos Villa and spin around at that exact same section of track we're talking about, turn 1 and 2 there. So again, just I guess that silly season continues on.
Yeah, it does take a couple of rounds for the rust to be shaken off. Let's have a look here. Riding with I think that is Carlos Villa there. Not quite sure what's going on. He doesn't seem to have... Oh, okay. So here we go. Adam Briggs behind him, coming through Paddock Hill Bend. We'll have a look at how this incident unfolded. Just looks like, Briggs just way too late on the brakes. And fortunately for Villa, he was able to hold on to that. But Briggs just going off the track. And the dynamic track and dynamic weather getting the better of him slightly as we look now at second and third. Harlow and Winkleman continuing to fight away, but Harlow is doing a very good job holding him off.
He is. Harlow has got a lot of speed, so I feel like his qualifying pace hasn't actually indicated his race pace at the moment, because he's managing to hold Winkleman off. It has actually created more of a gap as these last few laps after the safety car have continued on, so he's doing very well, and proving why TTL have signed him on in the V8 and in these GTE cars.
Yes, indeed. Excellent job so far from Harlow, but you got to wonder, has Winkleman been trying a bit of a fuel mess around here? Might he be able to get Harlow at the end? We will have to see, because we know what Trick Sim Sports are like on the strategy. We know that TTL, while they have fast drivers, they're not quite to the same level as Trick in terms of meticulously running the calculations and planning their strategies. So we will see. We've still got 5.5 minutes left in this race, and we've got a couple of post-race investigations here from the stewards. We've got the 023 versus the 58 and the 007 versus the 31. So those guys will be paying a visit to the stewards room, I think, after the race. Oh no. James McKee for JM Motorsports off there. That's obviously one of the things that you've got to think about at Brands Hatch. We did touch upon it earlier, David. The fact that grass is what lines the circuit, not necessarily tarmac. It's really catching these guys out, and McKee, unfortunately, oh no, was that any fault of his own? Yeah, he just caught the grass there on entry. Easy thing to do at this track.
Yeah, exactly. There's not stacks of runoff anywhere around this circuit. Anywhere you get on the grass, it's not the fastest way. That's why the circuit is the pavement, and it's on for second pull.
Oh, it certainly is. Mitchell McLeod retires from this race as Harlow has fallen into the clutches here of Winkleman. I think Winkleman may have had a bit of a pace boost here, because you can see these two Porsches fighting very hard. I love that onboard shot. Having a look at the dash of Anthony Winkleman's machine. It's an awesome bit of kit, the 911 RSR. I was so happy to see that iRacing was able to add it to their GTE roster. Just goes to show, like, Porsche, traditionally, in the past, they've been reluctant to have their cars in sim racing games. They did have exclusive contracts with certain game publishers in the past, but I'll tell you what, it's been a really good thing for sim racing and for racing games and esports in general that Porsche's opened up their license to sims like iRacing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we've got James Hanna has come into the pits now. After all that, the fuel wasn't going to last those last few laps. So, unfortunate to see for him. He tried to play that strategy, but just not going to work too well. But we'll keep having a look at this battle between Winkleman and Susan Harlow, which is heating up with about 3.5 laps to go at the moment. So this is going to be really interesting to see if Winkleman can make that move. Peasnick is up the road about 2.5 seconds at the moment, so he's checked out. But second place is well and truly on at the moment, and these 3 laps are going to have to be some of the hardest Susan Harlow has ever driven in iRacing.
Yeah, certainly. He's right in the deep end here, is Jackson. In the middle of what has proven to be a very strong field in this series, but he's taking advantage of the round 1 chaos, taking advantage of the big changes that this series has undergone, getting his foot in the door early. With a performance like this, even if it doesn't ultimately work out for him in the next 2.5 minutes, still a very impressive drive here from Harlow.
That's exactly it, and I'll point out as well, his fastest lap time is only a couple of tenths off the likes of Winkleman, so his pace is still pretty on the ball at the moment. So he is showing that he could be a proper contender come the next few rounds of this series, and hopefully the end if he keeps coming to see us every week when we have the series running. But now 2.5 laps left to go. Winkleman's still trying to find a way around at the moment, but can't quite do it. He's trying to use that draft, and maybe that front end damage is just causing a little bit of chaos for him in terms of trying to get the draft and that speed. But he's right up close, trying to find a way by, but just can't. Harlow's driving the car beautifully and making sure that at all the key points he's getting enough speed to stop Winkleman from having a proper go.
It's very difficult to defend at Brands Hatch when you've got a driver behind you just all over the back of your car, and you're trying to maintain your line and keep your focus through these high load, high intensity, high speed corners. So Harlow just continuing to hold off Winkleman as they begin lap 29. Got 2 laps to go here for our leader. Piesnik almost untouchable out the front. Have a look at Zach Hanlon. He's starting to factor into the background of this battle between Winkleman and Harlow.
If anything happens to Winkleman and Harlow, any sort of contact, they spin off or push wide, Hanlon's going to be right in this. So they've got to be careful because they could easily lose their nice second and third place here. And again, we come around and Winkleman just can't get close enough. Harlow is driving this thing beautifully.
Yeah, it's all about that exit. Harlow's lining up the exit very nicely because that turn coming onto the back stretch, you need a late apex for that thing. Winkleman is apexing too early. He's carrying a little bit too much speed through the end phase of the corner, and that's really damaging his straight line speed. If he could just make sure that his apex is late, that he goes for the slow in, fast out, he might have a chance of getting past Harlow over the top. Oh no, Harlow running a little bit wide there. That's going to open him up to another attack here. Winkleman, well, yeah, doing the right thing, not going for the move there, but I tell you what, these guys are starting to experiment, starting to make mistakes. This is where it all comes down. Piesnik has started the final lap. These guys have started their final lap. Almost contact coming into turn 1. It is on for the final 2 spots on the podium. What can Zach Hanlon do behind them? Will he be able to take advantage of anything that happens to these guys? This is what Sprint Series Australasia is all about. This is the kind of racing that we love to see from this series. It's why we keep coming back.
That's exactly it. This series being in its 4th season, it's here for a reason, and these 2 guys here are showcasing that to all of our viewers at the moment, to everyone who's going to watch this video later on, because the tit for tat, if you will, going back and forth in terms of pace and trying to figure out where to make that move, and Winkleman now gets very close. But no cigar there. You can't throw the car down the inside. 1 line only. So now he's only got a few corners left to make this move and make it work. So he's got to set this up real nicely. Get a great exit out of here. Probably the best exit he's gotten. Won't be able to make that move work. Harlow not making the same mistakes he did last lap. Beautiful exit there, meaning that Winkleman won't have the opportunity. He's going to have a little look there, but won't be able to throw it down the inside. Last turn as they come through here on the very last lap here at the moment. They'll come across the line. Harlow will look to grab this 2nd place. 3rd place for Anthony Winkleman and John Piesnik out front. Your winner here tonight. Absolutely dominant victory from him.
Yeah, absolutely. Piesnik getting his season off to the best possible start. Fantastic stuff. And you know what? I think this is a... Whoa! Hang on a minute! Carlos Villa, my goodness! Right at the end, in the grass. Has he gotten across the line? He hasn't gotten across the line. Oh no, right at the end, Carlos, my God.
And he's exited.
Oh, Carlos, what happened to you?
Oh, how hard has that got to be that far into a race to not be able to finish?
Oh my goodness, and it was so easy to do as well. Just Villa, maybe that was a hardware failure. Maybe his steering just went. I'm not quite sure what went on there. But
that was, it was on the last lap to run that wide and, end up DQing. That seems very odd from him there.
Yeah, well, that will be something to look out for later in the race, but the unofficial results are up on your screen right now. Piesnik bouncing back from losing the title in a spectacular way at Bathurst just a few short weeks ago. Jackson Harlow taking a massively awesome 2nd place. Anthony Winkleman as well completing the podium. Zach Hanlon, impressive 4th place. Blake Neck completing the top 5. Good performance there. Ross Rizzo, Scott Sadlowski, and Martin Silvassi rounding out the top 8. Silvassi actually finishing where he started. Top 10 completed by Reese Keane and Adam Briggs.
And in 11th place, we have Ryan Jerrick, who, again, finished where he started. Aaron Borkwill, 12th, 12 places up on where he started. Benjamin Johnson, 13th, 13 places up on where he started. Paul Mansell ends up 14th. Again, one of our big movers. A lot of guys up the field today with some of these incidents. Sean Lindsell, who was one of the guys up the front of the field there for that first restart in 15th. 16th is Michael Hammond, under investigation for an incident earlier in the race. Cameron Stavas, 17th. Richard Hunter, 18th. James Hanna ended up 19th. Started 34th, so still a very strong performance there. And rounding out our top 20 is James McKee.
Grabbing 21st, Mauricio Lastres. 22nd, Pat Gallo. And then Brett Cananzi gets 23rd. First car off a lead lap there is Carlos Villa. We saw his incident. And then several more laps down. Murray Walpole, Mitchell McLeod, Daniel Cheney, David Mulhall, and Luis Polo Gallon, who's in the championship fight until the last round of last season, having a shocking start to this series. I'll just finish off the remaining of the standings here. 30th goes to Dominic Ferraris, again, driver having a big incident. 31st, Troy Maguire. 32nd, Forzen El Nabi. 33rd, Justin Strickland. 34th, Damien McPhee. And last, as I see it, Mark Rayner.
My goodness. What an opening round for sure, and confirmed that was a hardware failure for Carlos Villa. That is a real shame to happen out of the last corner. How would you be? And Villa worked very hard for that position as well, so our commiserations to you, Carlos. But we are going to jump in for an interview with our race winner, John Peasnick. John, you lost the championship in spectacular circumstances at Bathurst, but this must be a fantastic way for you to bounce back from that.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for bringing up that race last year. It was not one to remember, but yeah, I'm very happy with that first race, mate. Especially new cars. I haven't driven these GTEs too much. I didn't worry about the pro qual sort of stuff. So I'm very happy with the outcome for the short little turnaround to get this car ready. So yeah, very happy.
So the Porsche is finding itself suited to you?
Yeah, I actually was going to drive the Ford, but there's very silly reasons why I'm driving the Porsche. It's purely down to enjoyment and just sound value. I do prefer the Ford, but it's just got no sound and it's not really enjoyable. So I just went with the Porsche and just stuck with it, and it's still producing very good lap time. So I'm pretty happy with it.
Well, that's a fair enough reason. The Porsche, I don't think many people will disagree with you that it's the best sounding engine out of all the GTEs. But yeah, it's certainly turned out to be a good choice for you. You seem very comfortable up there in the lead. Was it just a case of running your numbers and making sure that you come home in first?
Yeah, to be honest, I was a little bit surprised with the pace that the car had. And yeah, like obviously I didn't want the safety car to come out, as I had a nice little buffer there and could sort of just maintain and just keep pumping out the laps. But there's a couple little moments there when we had some slower cars in front with the restarts and just trying to sort of, hold my position from behind. So those little moments were a little bit hairy, but once that got all settled, it was just, get back into the rhythm and just the car seemed to do what it was told all the time. So it was pretty good.
Well, it's definitely the best possible start to this current season that you could possibly have, John. And it looks to me like your championship from this point onward, it's looking pretty good if this is the kind of pace that you could maintain.
Well, I'll do my best. Again, now it's going every week. Time-wise is going to be a little bit harder again, but I will try and turn up every week and get a good result, especially with that first one done. It'll sort of make me want to turn up and keep going. So I'll try and find the time as much as I can, and hopefully, the results keep coming. Just it's more. I've got to be a little bit more consistent, and it should hopefully pan out pretty well.
Well, before we let you go, John, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'll just say a big thanks to Frex and SimLab. Obviously, I've had a fair few sim-related hardware issues, and they've come on board and really helped me out. And and first race as JPR, and I'm pretty happy. So yeah, thank you, boys.
John Peasnick there, your race winner for round one. We're going to go now to our second place finisher. My apologies, I accidentally just brought John back in there. I can Discord. Excellent stuff. We do have our second place driver in here now. Jackson Suzlin Harlow, second on debut in this series. How does that feel?
Yeah, it was really good. I tried having a go at John, but he did really well to hold me off. Like, he drove awesome. Same with Anthony. There was a couple of little issues on the restart that were pretty scary, but it was really fun.
What was your perspective on that restart?
I was just waiting for the green, and then everyone went, and then everyone slammed the brakes on, so I just went and I gained 3 spots, so I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, he obviously came out one of the best out of that, but yeah, goodness me, second place. Definitely a good result to come away from, especially with your new team situation.
Yeah, it's really good. Like, I've been having a couple of struggles lately in a couple of races, so it was good just to get a podium in this, and yeah, hopefully I can do the whole series.
Yes, indeed. It would be interesting to see what you can do from here. The Porsche obviously doing you well.
Yeah, I don't know about a couple of tracks like Monza and that if they're going to be as good as the Ford, but I went with it tonight thinking it would probably be the best car for me. So yeah, it worked all right tonight.
Well, congratulations on your second place, Jackson. And before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, just thank TTL Esports and yeah, thank you.
Lynn Harlow there, your second place finisher. We're going to go to third now. Anthony Winkleman, welcome back to the commentary booth. Anthony, certainly a good result for you, but it wasn't without its dramas.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting race. That one had a bit of everything in it, but yeah, it was a hard-fought race to the end, which was really good, really entertaining, and real fun.
What was your perspective of the incident between yourself and I believe it was McPhee at the start? I know that there were a couple of cars involved in that. Just take us through that incident coming into Druids.
Don't know, man. It was sort of obviously turn one, everyone's fighting for the spot, but he come across and realised there wasn't room, so he opened back up again, and I got it in there under brakes. I was on the curb, I couldn't go any further in, and yeah, I don't know what happened to him after that. I got a 0x. I'm presuming I got hit at some point. But yeah, I was in there as far as I know. Didn't hit him under brakes. I was definitely mid corner if it was a hit, because that's when the 0x popped up. But yeah, it was pretty close, man.
Yeah, certainly was. Well, coming through the rest of the race, El Nabi, your teammate, having his issues. That was certainly not the start to the season overall that Trick would have wanted, especially considering Martin Silvassi starting from the pits as well. So it was a bit of a mixed bag for you guys.
Yeah, Marty, poor thing, got caught out with a really short the grid countdown. Got caught out a bit there, and I almost did as well, to be honest. But then yeah, Forzan had great pace. And it was really good. You know, a couple of times, like we were really close. Obviously, for most of the time he was there. He made a slip up. I got past him, and then I think he may have cooked his tyres at some point, and then yeah, caught the grass, and that was it.
Well, unfortunate, but nonetheless, you guys have definitely shown that that you got what it takes to be fighting for this series title once again. The Porsche being the one that you guys went with. What were your reasons for going with the Porsche?
I think it came down. The BOP is so close. Just came down to driver personal preference. Like we literally chose the car pretty much yesterday, the day before race day. So it wouldn't have a great deal of time to get the car sorted, but enough to understand it and to be competitive, obviously. And yeah, it was just a good fun car to drive. And given the fact that it is so close, we wanted to try something different, bit of a difference balanced car, because we did run the endurance series last series in the Ferrari. So to have a bit of a change up was always refreshing.
It certainly is. Well, we'll see how you guys go from Monza onwards. Before we let you go, Anthony, any shout-outs?
Just a shout out to Trick Custom Fabrications, all the boys at Trick Slip Sports. Great result considering the eventful night we had. Unlucky to Forzy and Night Rider Designs.
Anthony Winkleman there, your third place finisher. For our final driver interview of the night, we're going to catch up with the guy that our hearts definitely go out to right at the end, Carlos Vila. It all went wrong for you.
Yeah, just a mixture of a lot of concentration and kind of making sure everything was where it needed to be in the time and scoring sheet, and you clip the grass a little bit here, and it will punish you hard. So just a lack of concentration. Terrible thing to happen at the end, but we'll move on from it.
Yeah, you certainly will. Geodesic Racing's got a few drivers here in this one, and in combination with the series title sponsorship, you guys definitely have what it takes to be contenders. But the field is very, very strong here.
Yeah. Of course, there's the pro qualifiers this week, so all the pro participants are obviously using all these types of series to do kind of mini tests and stuff. So this series has always been extremely competitive, even when it was in GT3. So one of the reasons why we were so attracted to it as a title sponsor. So
Yes, indeed. Well, looking forward to the rest of the season here. Monza, 90-minute endurance race for round 2. You guys are running mostly the Ford and the Ferrari. You done much testing for that?
yes, and we obviously have a good set of notes from the pro qualifier a couple weeks ago. So we'll be ready for that. It's gonna be a really interesting race, and 90 minutes is definitely going to play a little bit more into the strategy part with the fuel and everything. So it'll be really, really interesting and fun.
Well, hopefully you do get a better result there than you did here, Carlos. Before we let you go, any shout-outs?
Yeah, absolutely. All the Geo guys who worked so hard for the past couple of years. Obviously, I'm not sure you guys heard the news with our brand new sponsor, Alpine Star, coming on board and really pushing and opening a massive door for not just our team, but the entire sim racing community. It's a long-term, multiple-tier type of sponsorship, so a lot of people are going to benefit from this in the long term. So be on the lookout for that. There's some interesting stuff coming up for the 24 Hours of Daytona this weekend. We should be announcing some of that in the next couple of days, so be on the lookout for that for sure.
We definitely will be, and big congrats to your sponsorship, guys. Carlos Vila from Geodesic Racing. Well, that brings us to the end of tonight's proceedings, guys. And Brock, I'll tell you what, this series, there's always something happening, but bloody round 1. There's something about round 1, isn't there?
Yeah, that's it. Something is always happening in this series, and we have seen some great racing. But I think round 1 is a bit cursed with these, with the Geodesic Racing series, and the Porsche Super Cup as well had some pretty nasty things happen when we were airing that. So, yeah, we always say we hope the racing gets better, and it always does. So I'm confident that what we're going to see is better racing and less crashing in the coming rounds and as the season goes on. But I guess it kept us entertained, and there was a lot of action to keep up with. So when we weren't on the safety car, there was either battling or crashing. So it certainly kept me sitting up in my chair and wide-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah, for sure. David, next round we move to Monza. Basically the polar opposite of Brands Hatch. It's flat. It's got super high-speed straights, and we're doubling the race length. We're racing for 90 minutes there. It's a complete 180 from round 1.
Yeah, it's another very famous European circuit. It's great for these kind of cars. The speeds will be a lot higher, but I think the racing is still going to be good. And I have to pick you guys up on this, okay? The quality of the racing will get better. But do you remember last season in round 10, we had a crash between some of our championship leaders? The drama in this series is not done after round 1 by no means.
Oh yeah, you're 100% correct there. There's going to be something to talk about from every round, I'd gather, especially considering what we've seen from this series in the past. So there's a lot to look out for here. If you've enjoyed this round of the Geodesic Racing Sprint Series Australasia, be sure to follow us on the socials, both on the iRacing Esports Network and over at SimSpeed TV. We're going to bring you every single round of this series on the iRacing Esports Network. But for now, we're going to say goodbye. Before then, we're going to go through what's up in the next week of broadcasting for us at SimSpeed TV. Over on our own channel, we've got the Oceanic Sim Racing Formula 3 Championship tomorrow night. On Friday, we've got the Australian Online Supercar Championship at Watkins Glen. That's going to be an interesting one. On Saturday, we've got the Daytona 2.4 as part of the International Majors Series, just before our friends at Race Spot kick off proceedings for the Daytona 24 Hours. Monday night, we've got the iRacing Official V8 Supercars Series, and Wednesday next week, it's going to be what you've seen tonight, iRacing Rallycross at Atlanta, and the 90-minute Enduro at Monza for the Geodesic Racing Sprint Series Australasia. We hope to see you there. Thank you very much for watching.